Welcome to Soul Sisteries.
Woo, sis, that was amazing. I am so excited to let our listeners meet Heather Wolf, where we got to talk about, kind of hope through her voice, really, and others finding their voice. And I'm just going to share with the audience that if you stay tuned, you get to hear a little concert while we're together.
I mean, it's so gorgeous, so incredible, so soul sisteries.
Yeah.
This is some good stuff here, everybody. Can't wait for you to listen. Join us. We're thrilled to be talking to and meeting the lovely Heather Wolf, who has agreed to spend some time with us and share with us her journey. Heather Wolf is an artist for the remembrance of folk wisdom, Brewess, true voice vocal guide, singer, musician, storyteller, facilitator, and sacred circle practitioner from the islands of the Salish Sea. Heather is devoted to the study of folk wisdom traditions and the remembrance of our ancestral heritages. Running through her work is a conviction that these arts and practices carried by the collective, belonging to the whole, and forming the vital foundation of every healthy culture, can help us embody our sacred relatedness to other humans and to the living world. Heather leads private sessions, retreats, and workshops worldwide, gives mythopoeic ritual performances of folk song and story with the mountain dulcimer, who we hope to hear a little of, and performs with her bands Witch Pop and Wild Revival. She's also the lead trainer for Teen Talking Circles, which we understand she originated as well. And welcome, Heather. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a delight.
It's wonderful to meet you and have you spend some time with us. And I know just talking a few minutes before this, we kind of talked about some things you have going on in your life and kind of where we started on our journey and creating this podcast. And really what we love to do is just kind of hear from guests and having them share with us kind of what got them to where they are in your life, in your world. And so listening to that biography of you, holy cow. I mean, there's a whole lot going on there. And this folk wisdom. And I was reading online about your sacred circles and the work you're doing with, teen girls and just all these amazing paths you're taking. And I would love for you to just kind of share like what got you starting down this path and then how you've kind of veered into all these different things you're doing.
Yeah, yes. I got to grab this. I almost want to give you a peek of my altar. That would really explain a lot. But I just found this old picture of me as a little girl and this
oh my gosh
assignment that I did in 7th grade. I'm just like, wow, I am the exact same person that I was in 7th grade.
Authenticity, hello.
A lover of butterflies, the wind and rain and trees, who finds happiness in friends, family, and music, who needs music, the wind, and trees, who gives happiness, friendship, and strength, who fears insects and war, who would like to sleep in the clouds, who would like to grow her own wings, who would like to dance in the light of a full moon with the fairies. I love to wear rainbow scarves, skirts and dresses, and flower garlands.
I love that.
Yes to all. Gosh. Yes to all. And for everybody who's listening and you're not seeing, the photo that Heather shared with us is a beautiful wide-eyed little girl standing in the trees and all the foliage, just looking out with wonder and definitely looking as one with that tree and those branches.
Or maybe that should be my bio. But
I love it.
I just feel... Yeah, I remember, I don't know what your earliest memories are, but I think really around 8 years old as I felt like a certain awakening of my consciousness on a spiritual level where I experienced a tree in my backyard, a maple tree that I really loved. I was walking by on one sunny day and I felt love reach out to me through the leaves and branches of the tree, like it was a human being that just reached out and put her arms around me. And I felt this bodily experience of what I would call God or the divine, unconditional love.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's actually making me almost want to cry right now. And it was this awakening moment of something that I think children are born close to already.
Yeah.
That divine, unconditional essence of life, which to me is love and grace and wisdom. And for me, I just recognized in that moment through my whole being that the living world is a source, is this rich, unconditional, vast source that's always pouring love out to us and to life. Yeah, I think I've always felt very close with that kind of magic, the magic of the living and unseen realm. To me, this magic, it's not paranormal or supernatural, it's very deeply natural. And one of my dear friends and mentors and David Abram his work. David Abram wrote Spell of the Sensuous and other books, and his work really encapsulates this. But just that magic is natural, and that we are all of that magic. So all my life, these are the things that drew me: nature, music, and I think it's funny that the bio, the list of titles, it feels so silly. I just laugh every time I hear it, but I think it is coming out of a place of recognizing that life is relational and life is multidisciplinary.
Yeah.
By nature, in truth, and that we have a lot of modern overculture human constructs around expertise and separating subjects, separating relationality in all ways. And I stand for I would say moving back, but it's also moving forward because we're never actually returning to the past. Returning to a remembrance of a more earth-based, original way of relating with ourselves and life. And so my wish so it's like being a folk artist means we don't have to be the greatest at everything we do. We do it and we embody it.
Yes.
And it can be simple and it can be regular. Like I have had a hard time. It was a little over 5 years ago that I had a huge career shift. I left a business that I co-founded with my last husband, and I decided I wanted to become a professional musician. And it was really scary because I felt I was pretty old in the scheme of things to begin.
Yes.
But what got me and I also have, throughout my whole life have dealt with shame and unworthiness around my voice and expression, which has brought me into the work that I do with the voice because it is and has been my own healing path.
Yes.
And then continues to be. I just remember what got me on stage was just wanting to grant more permission for more people to embody what is theirs to express, to embody their voice is imperfect and regular, which no voice is actually ever regular. But folk arts can be regular. They're of the earth. They're of the people. They don't have to be an expert, institutional master to do it. It's a birthright. And for me, carrying our songs, carrying our stories, carrying our own personal embodied knowledge of how to heal ourselves. All these things that are folk arts, the songs, the stories, our own personal relationship with herbs and rituals, all these things are our birthright, and they are in our lineage. They are
Mm-hmm.
in each of our ancestral lineages, which many of us, especially in white culture, have lost. In
Mm-hmm.
white settler culture, that is so much of America, as well as all the harm that has been and continues to be perpetrated on Indigenous people and people
Mm-hmm.
of
Yes.
color. And I will add our trans and
Mm-hmm.
queer communities,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
more so now. Um, so
Yeah.
all of this cultural loss to me, it's a deeply spiritual loss, but it's not spirit that's disembodied from matter. It's
Right.
spirit that's deeply embodied. So to me, it's a wildness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's being
Heather.
in touch
Yeah.
with a wildness that is wise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just want to say, Heather, because this is the first time that we are all sitting down together. You're speaking our language. So just know that. Like we are right there
You
with
are
you.
among soul
Yes.
sisters for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Right here.
And and and
Absolutely.
and I'm thinking back to like our own childhood, and Donna's a few years older than me, and we grew up sharing, a bedroom, and at night she would sing to me. And I thought she just had the most amazing voice. And I think you're still there. Um,
I'm still
okay,
here,
perfect.
yeah.
Yep, yep. But she just had
Could
the
you
most.
start the story over though? Because
Yeah,
you did
I
freeze.
sure can. Yep. So we grew up together and shared a bedroom and a bed, and whether I was scared or not, Donna would sing to me. And there was one song in particular I always loved her to sing, but she would always sing this song to me. And as we grew up, she would um, discredit her own voice and say that she didn't know how to sing and that she couldn't carry a tune. And to me, it was just the most beautiful, soothing thing always. And I think as an adult, she's embraced her voice through singing and acting and writing, but certainly allowing herself to sing loudly and proudly. And so
That,
I love that you shared that we all have this God-given right to
yeah.
use our voice. And I absolutely love that.
Oh, I love that. I want to hear the
Yeah.
song now.
I sing all the time, and believe me, I do not have that highly technical trained voice. But part of what I do with that, there's a troupe of adolescents I work with each year in directing in the theater arts. And to be a member of this troupe, we say very clearly, you don't have to be able to sing well. You just need to be willing to sing out and to use your instrument in whatever capacities and play with that. So it's
Yeah.
it's become part of the
Sweet.
kind of
Yeah.
inner knowing and the teaching of that one aspect of my life. I so relate to so much of what you're talking about here, Heather. So many things, and one is just that multi-expression
Mhm.
of all as source moves in you and through you and outward. You can choose manifestation, or it manifests in such a myriad way, and they're endless, the endless
Yeah.
possibilities. And what can you talk a little bit about, like, what is at, oh gosh, what am I even getting at? Like, what is at the heart of that for you? What's at the root of it? Where do you determine in which way to move and which way
Oh
to
my gosh.
experience or grow, however you want to take that question?
Yeah, such a good question. There's like I want to respond to something you said earlier, and I want to
Oh,
respond to that.
yeah,
Um,
both.
okay, so I might ask you to re-ask the question, but in terms of
Yep.
folk song and music, I just wanted to tag that we think of folk song and music as, not well trained or regular, or not very sophisticated. But if we look into the traditions of the people's music around the world, I mean, Africa,
Hmm.
just as an example, but
Yeah.
also Indonesia, like all over the world, we're talking about just like mythology or folklore or ritual, all of it, it's been developed through so many hands and beings
Mm.
in relationship with the living world of that place,
Hmm.
that the complexity and the delicacy is actually astounding. And when people are able to grow up in cultures where we'll just use music and dance as an example, but it goes into all the different art forms where music and dance is where we grow up as where music and dance is part of life collectively. The level of sophistication is so incredible, and it's done in a collective way. It's done in an ensemble, which to me is reflective of the actual truth of life, which is that we are all constantly in a polyphonic song of existence with humans and beyond, with so much more than humanity.
Yes.
And the more that, I mean, and that's where so many of our languages of the world have emerged out of communication with animals and forces of nature, elementals, right? It's actually through this. There's a word in a Sanskrit word called yukti, and it's like the specific coming together of so many different forces and factors and beings that creates this specificity of form. And we can think of language or folk song, folk tale and myth as these yukti convergences. And so that's why it's also so exciting to me, is that I'm part of events that are so much bigger than me that are happening right now, of people recognizing the importance of folk practice and re-engaging and reviving. And then our skill set starts to grow. It's fermentation. I started a fermentation company with my former husband and a third partner, Iggy, about almost 10 years ago now. And the birth of fermentation is a perfect example of that, the rebirth of home fermentation practices. So I just wanted to asterisk that. It's we have very exciting potential. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And as you're talking, it reminds me, because I had asked you prior to this discussion about your hope through. We generally have a little tag here of hope through whatever it is that our guest wants to talk about. And you had two, but one of them speaks directly to what you were just talking about, which is that hope through the more than human. And I love that you just led to that very naturally. Is there anything else you would like to say about that? I feel it's so rich.
I will, yeah. And then I want to answer your previous question, because that's so potent. So I would say hope through the more than human world, in that we can live most of our lives, and if we're not careful, it can swell the amount of our lived experience that is through the lens and structures of human-made dimensions. Our house, our phone, our car, the civilization and metropolis, towns, cities, and then our consciousness as well. What we think about, how we interpret our whole psychology, right? Everything can be very human centric, and I would say that that's at the root of most of our problems, collectively.
Yeah.
And we lose touch with one, what really matters, and two, with just all the wisdom that is here for us. And it's wisdom on many levels. I just moved to Portland recently, and I found a house with friends that's in Forest Park, so I get to go on walking on trails almost every day, and it's changing me. It's so important. Step out into nature, our balance, our wisdom, our grace, our well-being starts coming back. And then beyond that, so there's ineffable, I would say, like, setting us right. Ineffably that happens. And then there's also very tangible ways that nature teaches us by the work of biomimicry. Oh my gosh, her name is on the tip of my tongue. Well, anyway, it's not with me right now, but if you're Janine Benning.
Okay.
So I had the privilege of becoming friends with Janine Benning last year at Bioneers Conference, and her work on biomimicry is so important, and essentially looking at how we can mimic bios, we can mimic the living world, um, to create healthier, more intelligent systems of doing things as humans.
Hmm.
So I really feel like, for me, hope is in the immediate sense. And then the last thing I'd say about that is, um, being in this moment that we're in, which to me feels like a crisis of a poly crisis. I heard that term recently, and I don't know who coined it, but the crisis on so many different dimensions, poly crisis.
Yes.
And, in the Anthropocene, the,
Hmm.
the era of human
Yeah.
centricity
Mm-hmm.
that is causing the next mass extinction. Like, we are
Mm-hmm.
in an era of endings of the world. We don't know what that will look like, but
Right.
there's no denying that we're in an era of dying and death and
Yes.
massive
Right.
species and life loss and systemic collapse. This feels like an ending era, dying,
Yeah.
a mass extinction. And so, for me, within the realities of this, I find hope through the life, death, life cycle of the
Yeah.
living world.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
recognizing that even though we're living in human made catastrophes, we are also living in a world and an existence where life is the larger story. Like, spring is still happening
Yeah.
in full magnificent bloom, that when you get outside, your whole being is enveloped and overwhelmed by that truth.
Mm-hmm.
But if we stay inside with our human made devices, our whole being is enveloped and overwhelmed in that truth. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that is a big truth that affects all of life,
Mm-hmm.
but it actually isn't the end of the story. I do
Mm-mm.
believe that humans will probably kill ourselves off before we destroy life, like
Mm.
before the world stops living. There's
Yeah.
ways, there's massive power of regenerativity that the living world has, the ability to consume and
Mm.
eat death and bring it back into her body and give birth again to life
Mm.
through the material of death. I mean, fecundity, really, that word
Mm.
encapsulates
Wow.
that truth. The fungal realm, the flora, fauna, funga,
Yeah.
the kingdom
Mm-hmm.
of funga and microbes teaches us that on such a
Yeah.
fundamental level. So to me, yeah, and that's my closest understanding of God.
Mm.
And
Beautiful.
we could talk for hours and hours and days on just these few sentences here that because everything you're saying here, for me, this is where all depth and all life and all truth and all exists
Yeah.
and move through this.
Mm.
This is good sit around the campfire talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
right.
I
And
love it.
let the fire talk to us.
And let the fire talk.
Yeah.
It's interesting
Uh,
you mentioning all of this. Just a quick little aside. Yesterday, I was speaking with somebody who's going through some real physical pain experiences right now, and is doing a lot of release of some old stuff. And I was encouraging him to get out into the world and go connect. And he did. He went for a walk and reminded, and talk to the trees while you're
mhm.
there and see what they have to say for you. And he came back so rejuvenated and energized in that conversation,
Yeah.
in
Mm.
that short time. But my goodness, so
Yeah.
much
Mhm.
healing
Hmm.
Yeah,
possible.
and actually, I do want to, but there's one more thing I want to say on this, which is,
Yeah.
Please.
I think part of the wounding, that part of the remembrance, is recognizing that we are the more than human too.
Hmm.
Yes.
We are human, and we are so much more the
Hmm.
more than human as well. We're 9/10 non-human cells.
Right. Yeah.
We are colonized by colonies of cultures.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
also, but, in a non-biological sense too.
Yeah.
And so for me, hope through the more than human world also means to me that that we have a living relationship with what is more than human in us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking that can get us way down another path too, if we wanted to go there. So
Yes.
there's so many things that you're talking about, Heather. I'm like, okay, let me ask you about that. Let me ask you about this. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit because you had talked about, I guess, finding yourself and through your voice and really, I think you said it was like 5 years ago where you stepped into this kind of new world of just using your voice in any way that you could. And then you've also started your is it called the True Voice series, where you help other people find their voice and use their voice. And I think you said you don't have to have like a musical voice to find your voice. You don't have to be skilled at the scales and all of that, right? So can you share a little bit about what that is? Because that to me sounds very hopeful to find my voice and be able to use my voice in maybe ways that I haven't.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Also, I don't know where you'd edit this in, but if you'll excuse me, I still want to answer that question you asked me.
Stop. Yes, let's go back to it.
And then let's tag that one because I would really love to talk about this.
Yes.
So I think, Donna, you asked, where do I source all this? How do I find what's the purpose?
And that calling at that moment and that direction. Absolutely. Yes.
And that's just such a powerful question. And I feel like that is a question my friend asked me recently. She asked me, I'm so curious, she said, what your soul asks of you, and do you respond? How do you respond?
Boy, there is a potent question.
There's such a beautiful question. Yeah. I'm blessed to know some pretty incredible people. And so she asked me this question, and I think it's very related with yours. How do I shape the work that I do in the world, or just how I live my life? And I would say that, going back to the very beginning of sharing the story of myself as a little girl, my wish has been, from a pretty young age, I have felt very connected with authenticity and integrity and courage. I would say those are values that I have consciously held to from a young age. And even, I think, early influences were like the Dead Poets Society, that great film, Carpe Diem, and growing up in talking circles where we were really invited to share on a deep level in an authentic space. And for me, the whole idea of conformity as I was a young person growing up and socializing, realizing the play of social pressure and pushing to conform. I mean, I think I always felt different and weird, and I felt a kind of rebelliousness around it too, like a righteousness, like no one's gonna make me conform. As I became an adult, it shifted more towards, my prayer is, may I incarnate fully in this lifetime. And really, may I bring forth what's mine to live forth and to express and to embody. May I incarnate fully in this lifetime. And that is a scary prayer.
Yeah,
that is, and a powerful one.
Wow.
That prayer has pushed me and compelled me to take huge steps out of my comfort zone. It's required immense amounts of courage and loss. There's this great line someone told me recently: your new life will cost you your old one.
Isn't that the truth?
And damn, do I feel that. And so for me, it has been a lot about having the courage and the honesty with myself to answer my soul's call. But it's not an easy thing to do. And I even, like, to this day, it's like it has required me to continually meet my loss of vision, my grief, my doubt, my questioning, like, well, was the choice truly made from a soul truth, or was the choice made from some
Yeah.
other karmic knot that I have to work out? Like
Mm.
we're also fools, and we're going to be jumping off cliffs thinking
Yeah.
that we're doing the wise choice, and maybe we are, maybe we
Yes.
aren't. Like it's just like
Yeah.
the zen truth of like we don't know. We're in a lived experience at any moment. I wish I could tell this story just off my tongue, but I'm sure you know the Zen koan where it's like he this fool jumps off the cliff. He's headed down to the bottom. He gets hooked on a branch. There's a lion that's like roaring up about to
Mm.
bite him, but then there's like just within reach is a perfect berry, and it's like we are just
Yeah.
always sort of in this
Mm-hmm.
space of not knowing, is it
Mm-mm.
good, is it bad, is it
Right.
right,
Yeah.
is it wrong? Like that's the fool,
Mm-hmm.
that's the divine humor of it all. We
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
don't, we can't take ourselves too seriously to think that our
Mm-hmm.
lofty visions are
Right.
like
Right.
infallible, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel deeply fallible, deep fool.
Right.
But so when I put together though, what is my joy, what passion, what lights me up, where does my love and joy flourish, where does my vitality rise up, where is my pleasure and delight, and what I care about most, and how does that meet service to a greater vision of
Mm-hmm.
wholeness, and how does that meet my love for others, my love for life, my love for the
Yeah.
collective,
Hmm.
and a sense of vision and values. And so where those things meet, my own fulfillment and joy and calling, and in alignment with values for what's greater than myself, and for me that really is what I think, because I've asked a lot, well, what is my specific incarnation then, and
Hmm.
it is so much around embodiment of relationality, the delicious delight of sensuous existence that
Yeah.
I feel is actually the kind of food for the soul that we need to live a good life. And it just so happens there's a lot of healing and repair work that
Yeah.
Hmm.
needs to be done collectively from the overcultures that not all of humanity, but a lot of humanity is certainly the dominant modern world. There's a lot of undoing and unconditioning that I think keeps us from the very simple truths of how to live in right relation with life,
Mm.
how to make a living, how to make a living.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just want to name that some of my greatest inspirations for the voices to listen to at this time are Indigenous women.
Mm-hmm.
I had the privilege to be at Bioneers conference last year and to listen to a panel of Indigenous women speak about rematriation,
Mm.
rematriation of the land, rematriation of culture. And so if, I have my tiny little voice and my tiny
Yeah.
little being to contribute, but if I feel that the leaders that we need to be listening and following, the guidance of are Indigenous women,
Mm.
and they hold these women especially, hold wisdom, the sense of like good sense, which ultimately is
Mm-hmm.
quite simple. But one great line that Karina Gould Simond of the Bay Area, for example, was on the panel. She said, if you want to know how to make sure that everybody gets enough, ask the mothers,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how limited the resources are.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I feel that in my soul.
Yeah. We're we're not doing that collectively, right? We are discounting the mothers. We are discounting the Indigenous women. We are trying to silence their voices. And I love though that there are people like you, Heather, and I'm going to say like Donna and I also, and kind
Yeah.
of the people we try to associate with as much as possible in raising those voices. So, for me, it's not through singing because that's not, although I do love to sing, but it is certainly helping others find their voice and being able to speak up, and if not, speaking up for them. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
What I mean by voice is all encompassing,
yeah,
as you are referring to.
yes, yeah,
And that is to go back to previous question, that is the root of true voice for me, is really what happens when we are connected with our own authentic voice that comes from that central column of our being, and we feel it.
Yes.
We feel those moments when we are speaking from our body, our being, our truth, and we feel it when we're not. And I do believe that in speakers but also in singers, the singers that move us, at least move us the most, are ones where the heart and the soul it's coming from there. And it doesn't necessarily need to be the most perfectly operatic.
Right.
And again, why folk music can be so just as transcendent and powerful as the most incredible classically trained music, which I don't want to put down either. I have such great respect for classically trained and created and highly skilled musicianship and song. In the work that I do, it came out of, honestly, it began 20 years ago consciously, although I clearly, from my little poster, I've loved music and song my whole life. But when I was around 20, I became very aware that I had a spiritual, emotional wound in my throat center around vocalization and singing. I would often cry when I sang, didn't feel like I had a good voice. I just didn't. I just had a bad voice or something. And I realized that that was actually something that I needed to heal on a spiritual, emotional level. And I was, I'd been in choirs, musical theater, Western singing training, and for most of my childhood. And that form for me of learning brought a lot of headiness, like approaching the expression from my mental and intellectual state, a lot of anxiety and control in my body.
Yeah.
And I knew that was not what music was supposed to feel like. Creation was not supposed to feel that way. And so I studied with a lot of different other modalities, and really some of the most powerful song practice that I've ever experienced studying and practicing is in the Vedic yogic traditions. So chanting chakras and Sanskrit mantra, and a time in India was very important for me on multiple levels. I studied Dhrupad classical Indian singing, which is one of the oldest forms of classical Indian singing. And it's just, in the form itself, the divine and the body are not separate from the music. They're inseparable. So they're at the foundation and the core. So now the work that I do with others, it's continuing to morph and grow, but it comes out of just walking this path myself. And I feel that the voice is one of our most powerful instruments, tools that we've been, if we have vocal cords, that we've been given this immense, magical, powerful capacity and tool for healing our own bodies. And a lot of the practices I do, I would say that they're like in the realm of shamanic. They're primal practices that are inseparable from our energetic body and our physical body, our emotions, all of it, right? And so it can be utilized to move and heal and clear energies. And then it also the capacity to heal others, or to heal collectives, or bring joy and well-being. There are times when words just don't do language. We need a song. Times of birth, death, love, loss, like these times. And there's some way in which when we sing and when we vocalize in general, I think that's why it is so vulnerable for so many of us, because it's a direct self. People can say one thing, but if their energy and their emotion is in a different place, you feel it.
Yes, you do.
For sure.
And then that goes on from there into song and form of music, right? But even when we're singing, that we're beginning in that foundational understanding of this power.
Yes. Oh, Heather, the profundity of what you're saying. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
My goodness. Well, would this be an opportune time? Would you be willing to
I'd
play
love
or
to.
sing a little at this moment?
So I was thinking of doing a song that, or a piece of a song that's going to be on the new album that's coming out in July.
Oh, I love it.
That I'm releasing the first single next week, and then a succession of singles. That it's very exciting. And I'm doing an album release tour this July from LA to Vancouver,
Ooh.
where I'll be opening for an incredible artist named Cosmo Sheldrake, who, if you don't know his work, you must check him out. Cosmo, we can put him in the notes of
Yes.
this podcast.
Gorgeous.
Truly a living legend, and he's remarkable. So Cosmo is an old dear friend of mine, like a brother to me, and we've been singing together. Actually, he and his brother Merlin have been a huge part in my becoming a singer at around that age that I was really recognized that I loved to sing and I wanted to develop my voice, and we began teaching each other folk songs and singing in harmonies. So it's really a joy and a special privilege to be opening for him, and it feels like a full circle moment in my life. And I'll be releasing the album Midnight Hour for that tour.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
This July. So this is a song
Wonderful.
called Wolf Woman that I wrote beginning to turn towards music, and it really was me to get through a hard time, but rich of wolf women and all the wolf women of this world, all genders. Wolf women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a wolf woman, you know you're a wolf woman.
Yes,
Exactly. Claim it.
Wolf woman, so strong. Think of all this time you've been holding on. It's time you believe you've got the right to be. This life, it's so precious. She's got to be the protectress. This life, it's so sweet. She tended with every heartbeat. Sniff, sniff, she catch your drift. No matter how high you are, she lives. Sniff, sniff, she catch your drift. No matter how clever you are, she lives. On the high line, on the low line, on the sideline. On the high line, on the low line, on the sideline. Up from the inside, she pulls it up from the inside. Up from the inside, she pulls it up from the inside. Wolf woman, so strong. Think of all this time you've been holding on. It's time you believe you've got the right to be. Night Queen, priestess supreme. Don't she look just like a teeny little thing? Well, her power runs so deep. She whispered to you when you're asleep. Shh. Wolf woman, so strong. All this time you've been holding on. It's time you believe you've got the right to be.
Beautiful.
Oh, Heather, gosh, thank you for that. Gorgeous.
Quick and
Gorgeous.
dirty and not warmed up or anything. Just
Oh, no, beautiful.
It was gorgeous.
Real.
And my goodness, that could be a theme song for
Yes.
for what we're doing here.
I love that.
We call us soul sisters, right? But I mean, we're definitely wolf women. So
You're definitely wolf women.
100%.
Yeah, I am claiming that.
Wow.
Claim it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Truly beautiful. I could feel that. I mean, that just came right from the belly. That was
Thank you. Yeah, it's so funny. I've been in editing mode for all I hear when I play it is I have 5-part harmony with myself. Yeah. So I'm like, wait, where are the other parts? Which part am I going to do?
My girls.
Oh,
like,
man.
I can't do all the parts at once.
Well, your true thread was gorgeous. Truly, that was moving. And thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. Go, sissy.
Yeah, well, I just want to ask, because I know we're talking for a while and I don't know how much time you have, Heather, but I want to make sure that we get to touch on your the teen talking circles also. And then I know we have our rapid fire questions and some other questions to ask you and whatever else you want to share. But I want to make sure that you get to share a little something of that, because I know I think that's been running for quite a while, and you're the lead facilitator, and I know you train other people to facilitate these groups. And I would just love to hear kind of how they started and how they've grown. As you stepped away for your instrument, we were just talking about, like, so many people trying to silence women's voices, but certainly teen girls' voices, and to give adolescents their own voice that they learn to use when they are much younger than all of us, like how powerful that is. So if you can share a little bit.
Absolutely. And I will say I've had the privilege lately of working with some pre-teen girls in my True Voice work with their songwriting and first performance. And it's just, I mean, I could just cry. It's so fulfilling. And in terms of TTC, Teen Talking Circles, I really owe it all to my mother. She began the project about 30 years ago now.
Wow.
And she really, I'm sure she spoke on her podcast a bit about it, but she really wanted to create a better teen experience for her daughters, myself and my little sister, Genevieve. And it began as a focus group that was supposed to run, a few months of teen girls, and they were going to use it as a research to write a book for teen girls. And it ended up turning into the book Daughters of the Moon, Sisters of the Sun, which is later a book called Global Uprising about youth activism around the world. And most of the youth in the circle wanted to share their story in their own words. So that's what the first book is, along with interviews with incredible female leaders in the world. So that happened. It ended. They wrote the book, and then all the girls were like, well, we still want Circle. We need this. And a lot of their boyfriends at the time were hearing about Circle, were curious. And so they continued it. It transformed into a nonprofit organization. And I grew up in talking circles, in gender talks, which were special days where at that time it was a pretty binary world, but where the boys and girls got together and shared what it was like, and also took a look at the gender box. What is it that is, what are we taught it means to be a boy and not means to be a boy, a girl and not a girl. And so it actually was pretty ahead of its time in that regard as well, of really breaking down gender norms. And so I grew up in the talking circles. I didn't really want any of my peers to really know about it. It was, again, another thing that made me weird. Until one of my best friends, Nora, I invited her to circle, and she got so excited about it that she told everybody, she told all her friends. Don't tell. Yeah. And it's amazing. She and I grew up in circle together. Talina, who's the executive director, is like a sister to me, and one of my best friends from a preteen, and she was in the first circle. So around 5 or more now years ago, my mother was really ready to hand it over, and Talina stepped up as executive director. I stepped up as lead trainer, and I wrote the first curriculum for the virtual trainings, along with Nora Harrington and Emmy Kello Graham, who was a facilitator when we were teens. So and Emily Kello has started teen talking circles for Vashon Island, from Montessori to elementary, middle, and high school youth.
Wow.
With intergenerational mentorship programs. It's just incredible what she's done. Wow. And we
Beautiful.
built out a team of incredible trainers, Alexandria Arungure in Utah, who works with restorative justice and circle work. And this is just what we've created in the last 5 or more years since my mother left. But during the life of talking circles before that, when Linda was running it, it's always been a small but mighty organization, and places that the circle has gone, the different identities and social groups that have received its benefits are great. And I feel like the power of teen talking circles is the simplicity. Actually, it's a foundation of skill set and an approach that's based in simplicity and based in formatting the work to fit the individual facilitator and community. So it's not meant to be a top down. It really is around power with and really respecting that the roots of circle are indigenous from all over the world. Again, it's a lineage. It's a piece of our lineage and heritage, and I think it's a craving that we have to communicate in deep authenticity in a collective space that's held with integrity and care and kindness from the heart and deep listening. And there's a power to being heard and received and witnessed by a trusted collective that's distinct from the healing we get from one-on-one care with a therapist, which has its role, I believe, as well. I feel part of this relational fabric, and especially as young people, when it's that age when so much social relational breakdown with other generations is happening, and teens are so stigmatized and misunderstood. It's where some of our biggest traumas can happen, because they can happen much earlier, of course, and often do, sadly, but it is a natural rite of passage. It's a natural time of initiation from one consciousness and way of being into another. So it bears a presence of wisdom, and it bears a presence of caring adults, not to control and lead the way, but to be present with, and hopefully be able to cultivate contexts where the alchemical initiatory process can happen in a healthier way. Whereas oftentimes I feel these rites of passage, youth create them for themselves, the edge experiences, because there's a craving and a need for them. And although the Teen Talking Circles does not focus on specifically rites of passage work or rituals, which are in and of themselves some part of my work and what I've participated in and think is very, very important as for youth and throughout our lives.
Right.
But there's also just what I think teen talking circles and what a talking circle provides is the integration of and the longevity, the regularity of relationship through a span of time, which I would say that we all just really desperately need, right? In our lives, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Heather, it's so interesting.
Beautiful.
There's so much that you're talking about that you and I have so many parallels in our journey. Like I did years ago, started into the process of working with ritual and rite of passage, particularly with young people. And just because for me, my understanding of these types of experiences that we meet them, they meet us at a place that lives below the level of language. It's something deeply primal. And why things as, commonplaces, walking across the stage at graduation or going through whatever those ceremonies are, they have so much meaning and import because of what they do at these very deep levels. Anyway, I'm fascinated by everything you're saying, and I think you and I could talk endlessly. But yeah, we need to move to our next phase, huh, sis? Our next phase of questions.
Yep. Do you want to jump in? I think so, Heather, this section, what we do is just kind of, we call it rapid fire, and it's not really rapid and there's no fire. We just ask you questions, and it's kind of like, don't think about it. Just the first thing that comes to your mind, if you're willing to share.
Oh, painful.
Yeah.
What you were sharing was so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I feel you completely.
Well, it's what I feel about everything you've shared here today, Heather, and I'm so grateful that you came to talk with us today. These are beautiful wisdoms, beautiful learnings and sharings, and just thank you. Gorgeousness.
Thank you for having me. I really feel very blessed to be able to share, use my voice.
Yay. Wonderful.
Shifty, you jump in with a question. You go for it. Well, our silly little rapid fires.
Okay.
They're fun.
I will ask the first question then. So, walking into your TED Talk, to your concert, what would be your walk-in song?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I think it's now Wolf Woman.
Wolf Woman,
yeah. I'm drawing a blank, so let's just go with Wolf.
Go with Wolf Woman. Yep.
And if I'm claiming it because now it's my song.
Yes,
that's right. You claim that.
Yeah, I will definitely play it. Yep.
All right. So, what book changed you?
Oof. I really will credit The Color Purple.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness.
It really changed my life as a young person.
Yeah. Wow.
The story, the craft, the language. Oh my God.
That one passage about God and the color purple.
And the color purple.
My entire spirituality in a page and a half.
That's Alice Walker. Okay.
Do you remember how old you were when you read that the first time?
I mean, I was probably a preteen or early teen. I was 13, 12. Yeah.
Amazing. I didn't come to it. It's about 18, I think.
Yeah.
Transform. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I think I was in high school. Okay. What movie lives rent-free in your brain?
What movie?
Yep.
That you can quote endlessly.
Probably Princess Bride.
Great one.
Forever.
And also a great book, but
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the book is just lovely. Yeah. Okay, so I think, and you've already answered this, but we'll readdress it. Yeah. What did you love doing as a kid that you love doing to this day?
Yes, wearing long flowing dresses and flower garlands and playing in the woods.
Oh, that's just beautiful.
Meadows and beaches with friends.
Yeah. Oh,
yes, please.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, can we all just go do that right now? That sounds amazing.
Yes, we can.
Frolic.
Yes.
Just one word, frolic.
Frolic. I like that. But I also like it with the long flowing dresses. That just is fun. Yes. So, yeah. What in your world is lighting you up right now?
Oof, creating this album is really lighting me up right now. It's my first true solo album. So I've been putting most of my effort
Yeah.
for the last 5 years into these beautiful bands.
Wow.
And in the last year or two, really just in this 2025, I had made a choice to shift and focus on myself as a solo lead artist. And it continues to be extremely scary and challenging, and bringing up all the juicy stuff. But it is exhilarating now that it's really coming.
Yes. And how nice to finally, it's almost out there, like you said, everybody gets to start hearing it next week, which is amazing.
That too, it feels so good to like, these are songs I've been carrying for years that I just finally am releasing to the world. It's like the river is just flowing.
Yes, beautiful.
Bravo you, just taking a second here just to hold space with you and just own that truth of what a beautiful, powerful, potent moment this is. And bravo you for pulling this forward and living it. That's some beautiful stuff. That's some beautiful stuff right there. Okay, so
bravo to all the hands and beings that are helping me.
Yes,
could not do
to
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What color is hope?
Oh, green.
Green.
Yes. Yeah.
Green.
Yeah. And what does hope sound like?
Oh gosh. The first thought that came to mind is birdsong.
Yep.
Gorgeous.
Yep.
Gorgeous. Finish this statement, if you would. Connection is. Finish that statement.
Connection is the food of the soul.
Oh, yes, it is.
Nice.
Okay, here's another fill in the blank. The meaning of life is.
Oh my goodness. This is one my mother and grandmother used to always ask me since I was a little girl. It's like, that's just so intellectual of you. How do you expect us to know that? I do feel that the meaning of life is to share love in all forms, in all the different ways and forms that.
Yeah. Yes. So agree. Yes.
Music is.
Music
Mm-hmm.
is magic.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Magic.
It is. And finally, hope is. Hope is what?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna honor one of my best, dearest friends in the world, Jenny Ray. We were talking last night, and I asked her this question because I knew we were gonna be speaking today. And I know I gave you my answers.
Yep.
But I asked her, what would you answer? And she said, hope is action.
Yeah.
And she got it from, she was inspired to that conclusion, which is very shared by many I know, and through reading James Baldwin and what he had to say about hope, that hope is something, to paraphrase her, Baldwin last night, so forgive me, James, but essentially that hope is chosen, that he shared that he chose to have hope in the face of total illogical reasoning.
Yeah.
And that he felt hope is created, and crafted, and I find that's such a powerful.
Yeah, exactly why we're here in the first place. So, yeah.
Well, okay. Heather, this has been just a true joy talking with you, getting to know you. We're so grateful for your very open and honest sharing with us, and also sharing your beautiful creativity and your music with us. Just lovely. People listening, we would love for them to be able to find you, to learn more, to explore what you do. You want to share anything about any more about where they can find you and what to follow, your album's name, all of that good stuff?
First of all, yes, thank you for having me. It's been very joyous for me as well, and meaningful. And I love meeting new kindred spirits when we had no idea.
Nope.
We're so lucky. So to stay connected with me, my website is just heatherwolf.love. www.heatherwolf.love. And there's tabs to my music, to true voice work, to sorts of things, events, upcoming events, workshops. Make sure you get on the mailing list through the website so you can hear about retreats, workshops. There's also on the True Voice page, you can, if you feel inspired to learn more, or this is something that you think you want. I do a lot of my work virtually with the voice. And then make sure, Heather Wolf is my Instagram, and my artist's name on all the streaming platforms. It's just Heather Wolf, like the animal, like the flower.
Awesome. Yes.
And the album is called Midnight Hour. And I think you got in LA, the show will be July 16th. I believe it's at El Rey Theater, but he might have sold out of that, so we might be upgrading the venue. But it's the 16th of July this year in LA.
Awesome.
I'd love to see you both there. If you're
and you said July, you said starting in LA and going up to Vancouver, you said.
July 16th to the 24th, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver.
Okay, wonderful.
And then also, if people want to book me for the fall and winter and ongoing for workshops, for shows, I really love doing house concerts and house events. I find it to be just a wonderful way to bring in both storytelling, myth telling, and music and conversation among people to facilitate. And then it could also be a workshop on the voice.
Yes. Wonderful, beautiful.
So all of that. So, and I
love it.
LA fairly frequently. So
Heather, I feel like
she's already thinking
there's more stuff in our future. I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I feel very certain of that.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you again for your time and for the sharing of your heart. We're so grateful. Yes,
and for the concert that I didn't know we were going to get. So
yes. Thank you for being
beautiful.
Such powerful recipients. I think that one thing is that the receiver, the listener, is just as important as the giver, because you can only really give to the capacity that it's being invited and that can be felt. So
thank you for that.
Thank you. We so appreciate you being. I know we got delayed, but glad you got to make it today.
Worth it.
Thanks for joining us today on Soul Sisteries.
And thanks for sharing stories with us. We'd love to hear your stories as well and keep the conversation going, absolutely keeping the hope going. So we're really hopeful that you'll connect with our guests as well who have great stories to share. Go ahead and follow them in various social media platforms or live venues, wherever it is that they're performing and sharing what they do.
We would love to have you follow us on all of our social media platforms, subscribe and rate, as that will help us get our message of hope out to others.
Thanks for listening to Soul Sisteries.